News or big stories coming out of the rest of the continent. So a variety of stories that Lee has picked up on and has been tracking throughout the week. And then, of course, straight after that, we're talking personal finance with Paul Rilliser. And I think this is something that pertains to all of us, which is how to safeguard your finances during the Covid-19 economic as well as health crisis, because that's exactly what it's become. We move on to sustainability and we talk World Water Day. Today is, in fact, the UN's World Water Day. So let's unpack all of those things in a country where we know that, unfortunately, so many of us don't have access to good water and sanitation services or any at all. So, of course, in light of COVID-19 and knowing that washing hands, right? Soap and water are so key to battling this virus. It'll be interesting to have that conversation. Well, welcome to it. If you've just joined us, it's the Saturday edition of Weekend Breakfast with myself, Refilwe Mpakanyane. The lines, of course, always open. Do give us a call on 011-883-0702. Alternatively, send a voice note and a WhatsApp to 072-702-1702. That SMS line is 31702. And my Twitter handle is @Mbakanyane. Hit me up, send some messages, send some self-quarantine or social distancing pictures and videos by all means. Let's share, let's talk. We want to hear from you.
Weekend Breakfast with Refilwe Mpakanyane on 702 for the curious.
And speaking of sharing and talking, here's a little clip from the Harvard Business Review, which looks at setting boundaries for work time and personal time. Have you found it difficult to adapt your work-home balance since we've all been remote, working remotely, or being encouraged to work remotely, or forced to work remotely? You know, it's really not easy for some people. We touched on this a little bit yesterday in our talk with human potential expert and parenting expert Nikki Bush, and it was the idea of how do you work remotely whilst balancing your children's schoolwork, because of course schools are closed, and of course balancing your own work, right? Not easy at all. And I imagine that besides, taking children out of the equation, it just cannot be easy to have your television right there, easily accessible, your fridge right there, easily accessible. Someone was joking online that you guys are all going to finish your quarantine snacks in one night, and I think she might have been right. The pull of the fridge is a hectic one, and you find yourself munching away, preparing unnecessary snacks. But really, how do you, beyond distraction, how do you actually just manage that work-home balance when you are living right there, working right there, and we can't go out. We're not interacting and socializing, of course, as you usually would. So is your work life just spilling over into everything? Are you waking up early and working very, very early and working late into the day? Or are you one of those people that just aren't getting the work-life balance right? And in fact, the home life is taking over everything and you're just not as productive as you used to be. Well, send me a text message on 31702. But let's listen to this clip from the Harvard Business Review, which looks at exactly that, setting boundaries for work time and personal time in these days of social distancing.
Today, more and more people are getting the opportunity to work from home, which is great. But sometimes, like what's happening right now with the coronavirus, certain circumstances may actually force people to work from home. And while working from home does come with a lot of perks, you get to work in your pajamas, you have no commute, you get to hang out with your dog. I love you. It also does have some real challenges. Because there's less structure, you may actually work too much and focus too hard and get burned out.
What's the answer?
The second is actually kind of the opposite. It might just be hard to focus and get as much done as you really want to do. The key to overcoming both of these challenges is to set boundaries around your time and space. So when you're working, you're working. And when you're not working, you're not. Here's how. The first thing you're going to want to do is give yourself a dedicated workspace away from distraction, meaning away from the TV, away from any music or the kitchen. One thing that's really helpful is to be able to shut the door so that you're out of sight. The second thing you want to do is make a schedule and stick to it. And it may sound silly, but you actually want to pretend that you're not working from home. So get up as you normally would, pour yourself a cup of coffee, sit down with your computer. It's good practice to play out for yourself what's acceptable and not acceptable to do during office hours. So for example, when you're at work, you're not going to play with your dog or listen to music. So don't do them while you're at home, actually focusing on your work. Finally, you're going to want to quit at quitting time. Even if you're in the middle of a project, put it down because it'll help you get jump-started the next day. Do you want to get me sipping my coffee? Okay. The third thing you're going to want to do is set boundaries. The people or animals in your life are going to see you at home and think you're taking the day off, but that's not the case. Buddy, I need you to listen to me. I know what this looks like, but it's not what it seems. You're going to want to explain to them unapologetically that you're working from home. We'll go on a walk at lunch, we'll go to the park. And the more they see you around the house doing your thing, the more they're going to begin to understand that this is your time to focus. So at the end of the day, you might feel like you just didn't get enough done. This is pretty normal, and a lot of people feel this way when they work from home. That's why the last thing that's really important to do is celebrate your wins. Maybe you write them down and go over everything you did that day. These daily reminders are really good because they can create a virtuous cycle. And the next time you work from home, you might feel a little bit more focused and just like better about your day when it's over, because it's not easy.
And there you have it, some tips from the Harvard Business Review. Just, I hope that you found that useful, how to be effective now that you're working from home or working remotely. It seems like a no-brainer, right? But of course, no-brainers always seem obvious when someone says them to you, but it's actually an implementation and practice where that the real test is. So I hope that was useful for you. And perhaps you've got your own working from home or working remotely hacks that you want to share with us. Would really, really appreciate it. And I really did relate to the one which is simply, it helps to have a door to close and just pretend you're not at home. These distractions are real. These distractions are intense. So I hope you're as productive as possible now that you're working remotely. Well, it's 16 minutes past 6. Very, very shortly, we're going to be catching up with David Katz and spring cleaning or autumn cleaning with kids now that we are all homebound. Let's declutter those spaces.
702 Weekend Breakfast with Refilwe Mpakanyane. Email her on refilwem.
With the BBC News. Italy's Prime Minister Giuseppe Conte has said that all businesses, including factories, should halt non-essential operations as the country battles to stem the coronavirus pandemic.
Oggi abbiamo deciso di compiere un altro passo.
Today we've decided to take another step. The decision taken by the government is to close down all productive activity throughout the country that is not strictly necessary, crucial or indispensable, to guarantee us essential goods and services.
But Mr. Conte assured Italians that supermarkets, pharmacies, banks and the postal services would remain open. Authorities in the worst-hit region of Lombardy announced stricter anti-coronavirus measures there, including a ban on non-essential building work and the suspension of open-air markets. Italy has the highest death toll in the world at 4,825. Meanwhile, a group of over 50 Cuban doctors and nurses are traveling to the northern Italian region of Lombardy to support doctors there. They are part of an award-winning medical unit specialized in dealing with disaster zones and epidemics and are due to work alongside Chinese doctors in a new hospital in Bergamo. The Bolivian interim government says it's postponing May's presidential elections because of a countrywide quarantine beginning on Sunday to try to stop the spread of the coronavirus. The country's electoral authorities said they would suspend the vote for 2 weeks to match the quarantine but did not set a new date. Bolivia has so far confirmed 19 cases of the virus, far fewer than neighboring countries. Brazil's largest state, Sao Paulo, is closing down for 2 weeks from Tuesday. The state is home to around 46 million people and is Brazil's business, industrial and financial powerhouse. Here's Katie Watson.
It feels like the city's on lockdown already and the big shopping centres have been closed, only supermarkets and pharmacies are open, restaurants, summer restaurants are just doing delivery only. There are very few people out in the streets, the parks around the city, they're all closed. Sao Paulo has the highest number of confirmed coronavirus cases, being the biggest city, and 15 deaths so far, so it is taking this, very seriously.
South Korea's Centers for Disease Control and Prevention has reported 98 new coronavirus infections. The figure suggests a continued downward trend in new cases. The total number of cases in South Korea now stands as 8,897. China, where the coronavirus outbreak began, has reported 46 new cases.
It is incomprehensible that doctors
said all but one were imported, mostly Chinese people returning from abroad. World news from the BBC. Australia has become the latest country to announce a stimulus package to safeguard the country's economy from the effects of the pandemic. The Prime Minister Scott Morrison said the government would make available almost $110 billion for supporting those most vulnerable to the effects of the crisis. In Africa, Uganda has recorded its first case of coronavirus. The health ministry said the 36-year-old Ugandan man arrived home on a flight from Dubai early on Saturday morning. From Kampala, Catherine Biruhanga.
When the gentleman got to the health screening point at Entebbe Airport, he had a high temperature. Tests later showed him to have the coronavirus. The other passengers on the Ethiopian Airlines plane have been put under mandatory quarantine, and authorities say they're being monitored. On Saturday evening, President Yoweri Museveni announced that all passenger flights into the country will be suspended as of midnight on Sunday. Travel across land and water borders will be severely restricted.
Palestinian officials in Gaza have confirmed the first 2 cases of coronavirus in the territory. The infected people tested positive late on Saturday and were placed in quarantine in the town of Rafah. They had traveled from Pakistan. One of the most powerful men in Spanish football in the 1990s, the former Real Madrid president Lorenzo Sanz, has died after testing positive for the coronavirus. Sanz, who was 76, was admitted to hospital last week with a fever and breathing difficulties. Sanz's greatest achievement during his 5 years as president came in 1998, when Real won the European Cup for the first time in 32 years. They repeated their success 2 years later, but he was ousted shortly afterwards by the current president Florentino Perez. BBC News.
This is Eyewitness News.
We take a look at the latest numbers of COVID-19 in the country and the globe, and tributes pour in for Saul Kiesner. Good morning, I'm Sfiso Zulu. As South Africa's coronavirus tally rises, most of those infected are between the ages of 21 and 60. 240 people are now being treated in the country. Eastern Cape has its first infection, while Gauteng has 125 cases. The majority are people who traveled to Europe. Ntakwana Ngatane brings us the latest information.
The country's first coronavirus case, a 38-year-old man and his 38-year-old wife, have now tested negative for COVID-19 after undergoing treatment. But more cases of people between 21 and 60 are being picked up. 63 patients are between 31 and 40 years old. 57 are between the ages of 51 and 60. There's so far only one person between 81 and 90, and 10 between the ages of 71 and 80. Ntakwana Ngatane, Eyewitness News.
A South African couple has been left stranded and stuck on a luxury cruise liner in Italy, where it's believed a passenger died after contracting the coronavirus. Sue and Paul Klukek boarded the coastal Luminosa vessel last month. It has been reported that the deceased passenger disembarked the vessel in the Grand Cayman. Kevin Brandt reports.
The Mpumalanga couple went on a cruise to celebrate Paul Kluk's 70th birthday. The vessel is now docked at its final destination in Savona, Italy, but during the trip, the couple learned of a fellow passenger's death, a man who disembarked at the Cayman Islands. He was the territory's first COVID-19 death. Sue Kluk says 2 passengers who have also fallen ill disembarked the ship in Puerto Rico. The couple's son, Tim Kluk, says he has no idea what will happen now.
I don't know what's going to happen in Italy, because how are they going to dock there with the country in lockdown? And how would they fly out of Italy with the country in total lockdown?
The couple says they have not been tested for coronavirus yet, but are being taken care of. Kevin Brond, Eyewitness News.
Some Italian regions are starting to implement preventative measures after the country reported nearly 800 coronavirus deaths in one day, increasing the death toll by almost 5,000. The Italian region of Lombardy has banned sports and physical activity outside, even individually. Lombardy is the worst affected region in the country with over 3,000 deaths. Businesses have been asked to close all operations, excluding essential supply chains. Work on building sites will be stopped apart from those working on hospitals, roads and railways. Meanwhile, US President Donald Trump has signed legislation that provides workers with paid sick leave and family medical aid at no cost to employers. This is as the world's economy grapples with the effects of the coronavirus. The US has recorded more than 26,000 cases with 340 deaths and almost 180 recoveries. Trump says they are also working on providing massive relief to small businesses.
We're working quickly to pass additional legislation that will provide massive relief to small businesses and affected industries and give direct payments to our great workers and hardworking American families.
The family of the internationally renowned hotel tycoon Saul Kiesner says he has left an indelible mark in the hospitality industry globally. The Southern Sun Hotel Group and Sun International founder died of cancer at his Leeuwkops estate in Cape Town yesterday. He was 84. Edwin Sidi takes a look at his life.
Saul Kiesner's passion of the hospitality industry began in 1962. When he bought a small establishment in Durban. He later founded Kiesner International, Southern Sun Hotel Group, as well as Sun International. He arranged the VIP function during President Nelson Mandela's inauguration in 1994. Family spokesperson Ian Douglas says he will be remembered for the role he played in the business fraternity.
Kiesner was a legend, and his impact on the international hospitality industry cannot be understated.
He is survived by his children, Andrea, Beverly, Brandon and 10 grandchildren. His family says he will be buried at a small private funeral attended only by his immediate family. Edwin and City. Eyewitness News.
A partly cloudy day in store for Gauteng today with isolated thunder showers expected. Johannesburg starting at a low of 14, reaching a high of 26. Pretoria 15 and 28. Vereeniging 14 and 24 degrees.
In your sports, Paulo Dybala becomes the third Juventus player to test positive for coronavirus as calls mount for the Olympic Games to be postponed by a year. And SASCOC's nominations committee to decide on Alex Kosana's bid for the presidency.
The top story in Eyewitness News this hour, as South Africa's coronavirus tally rises, most of those infected are between the ages of 21 and 60.
Eyewitness News. In touch, in tune, and independent. For the latest, log on to ewn.co.za or ewn.mobi.
Stay up to date with all